protecting Matt. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Yuan no matter what. See, I'm in agreement, but not directly. I still feel like he got the killer to do it. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. This doesn't count for everything. Well, I am the logical type. I'm finally seeing her true self. She is more nervous than a scared rabbit. The defense can find no fault with this testimony. I'm ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. It just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. It's that thing of sort of like, I do believe it is Engarde in some regard has actually done it. But I still need to pursue the idea that he's innocent. For Maya's sake. What do I do? Protecting Matt? From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. How? Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? And don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. Ugh. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? Silk hat, what? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. Alright, I just wanted more information. They didn't teach that to us in school, at least not from what I remember. May I continue now? I had to kill Yuan no matter what. Why? So would you say this need came from the press conference? That's what I'm thinking, yes. Do you know why Yuan chose that event and that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Engarde. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Engarde himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Anyway, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are Mr. Wright? Well, yes and no. Again, it's that sort of thing of like, I want to pursue the idea that he's guilty but innocent, because otherwise Maya's in trouble. I know what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove I'm right. Has Mr. Engarde done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Corrida with his press conference. And that event was supposed to bring down Mr. Engarde, yet you still helped out. Objection! The person on trial right now is Mr. Engarde, right? This is pertinent. What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of your concern. It just is. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. I've got no issue with that one. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. I'm sure the knife was her, though, wasn't it? And I'm getting confused on the knife situation now. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. During the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jamming Ninja's costume. We're talking about this button, correct? The button was found in the pleats of Matt's Hakama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it decisive evidence. I want to try and remember about this knife. Because, yeah, it was stabbed after. So it's that sort of thing, like, the knife is throwing me off here. Because that was after the fact he was dead, wasn't it? Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. Can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Wait, what? Miss Andrews, for Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. That button was torn off Yuan during his fight with Matt. Okay. Don't get any more info on that. And how do you know that? The ends of the threads of the button and the costume were matched up. They were found to fit together perfectly. Or so I heard. I heard that before, too. But why would Miss Andrews know about the case down to such a fine detail? Again, I'm going with the idea like she's trying to implicate on God, and that's what's caused issue with the killer stuff. That's why we're involved in all this stuff, is like she complicated it by trying to frame him. So I'm thinking she took the button, like stabbed him, took the button, and framed on guard for something he probably did anyway. Yes. And don't look at me like that. It's because I'm prepared and you are not. And I thought I had her with, like, this time for sure. My thoughts are racing all over the place on this one. If there's anything to trip her up on, it has to be here, but where and what? Okay. But I'm Matt's manager, so I thought I had to protect him. So if it's there, the button was torn off, drawn during his fight with Matt. It was ripped from his costumes, covered in blood. Ooh. Okay, right, so, no. If he was strangled with the staff, yep, strangled with the scarf, that killed him, and then he was stabbed after the fact, and then the button was torn off because it's covered in blood from him being stabbed. So it would have to be pulled off after the fact, right? So the button was torn off one during his fight with Matt. No, it was after the fact, so that's a contradiction. So the question is, what do we actually present here? Right, so that button was torn off Yuan during his fight with Matt. It's like, no, because he was strangled with the scarf. But I could also present that, could I not? To point out, it was like, it was after the fact? Let's go with the autopsy first. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood in it. I assume I could have actually just presented the button, then it didn't matter which way around I did it. Which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume. When? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly. Which means it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off of the victim's already dead body. Oh, that makes sense, yeah. What is the meaning of this, right? Spotted the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died. What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it? To pin the crime on Engarde. I mean, so far I'm following my logic of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like few holes here and there, but it's like just following that logic of like the whole setup of where everything I went on about earlier is the best way of putting it. Or was it the previous part? I'm not entirely sure anymore. Still so many, I like this case a lot because there's so many thoughts going through my mind with this. It's exciting. Anyway, there's only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Engarde. There is no way anyone would put a bloodied button in their own pants. That's right. Mr. Engarde was set up. By the real killer, of course. Oh, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? And the real murderer is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then? Finally. Can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down now yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Engarde is, well, I only believe half of that, but alright. Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you. You are Mr. Creedus' killer. What? Oh, she killed him? Oh, well, that makes sense. Mr. Wright, this is a very grey matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Engarde, naturally. The knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Tch. She keep breaking her glasses, like what? And then, what about the button that was found in Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body, or the killer. However, if Mr. Engarde was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. There you go. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Engarde's hakama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. It was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's actually a damn good point. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there is this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Engarde. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? But please stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. I still don't feel like she's the killer. I just feel like she's the one who tried to set up on guard. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Oh, yes, there's that law. Well, yes, you are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Engarde's room... Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Franziska planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Pheonix. There is still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done. What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Kurita. Oh, yes, it's true. Yes. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Kurita? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. Oh, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid, definitive proof. But that's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter. And at tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow? We don't have a tomorrow. Don't get a not guilty verdict today, then. Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? The client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? Yes, but I want him dead. That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth? What are you, It's true, Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true. But, actually, there is one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews? When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and? Can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they're shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual. But I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. Oh, so, well, that makes sense. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? Just don't know. He's an ally of truth. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. Alright, here we go. When I found the body. That glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. Then who? Surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. In Yuan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. You said you were in shock. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something. So I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I need to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, may begin your cross-examination. That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in the messy state. So it was a mess. Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Corrida? I understand your frustrations, not being able to prove your theory. However, before you go accusing people of crimes, go find yourself some evidence. And then, what did you see next, witness? And Yuan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. What happened to the shocked situation? Slumped over? Yes, he was just sitting there, with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. Really looked like he was sleeping. Just me. That right there sounded a little odd. Yeah, it's like... Previously she said the idea that it was like in the crime photo. Just like... I wouldn't think someone like that would be sleeping. I don't get the impression sleeping. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. That would be my first worry straight away. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something. So I went to pour him some juice. Okay, that seems more accurate. You thought he fainted? Thought he was asleep at first, but then the room was in such a messy state. Thought maybe he had gotten into a fight with someone. And that's when you went to pour the glass of juice. Yes. Always had a hard time waking up. G1 always had a glass of tomato juice to drink. I see. After that, what happened next? And I realized he was dead. That's when I knocked the flower vase over. Doesn't that contradict stuff she was saying earlier? What did she say earlier? I can't remember now. But I am thinking, like, it doesn't feel like it lines up what she's saying now with what she said earlier. In regards to, like the scene, like, looked like this, more or less. And she was in shock about the situation. It's like, it doesn't match, so... Let's present it. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body. Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Like, if apparently this is what you saw when you discovered, you'd be like, that's a dead body. What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There's a knife sticking straight out of Miss Creed's chest. Anyone who saw the scene would have immediately thought that there was a dead man. That's, well, you see... I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted. And then, so nonchalantly, go pour something to drink. Your point is... Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it's all one giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clear. That you are the real killer. No. And such. It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Engarde, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. I believe her. 100% believe her. She did try to frame him, though. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Yuan. I don't believe that either. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. Refuse is crazy. And there is no need for this court to continue any further. Miss Engarde's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? No, we're not even anywhere near it. What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Engarde. Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. Well, the witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. Well, I mean, but the absolute real truth? What are you, witness? Don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Engarde will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. Too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Huh? But you remember, Pheonix, Miss Andrew lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Engarde will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now, and is clinging onto them. Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? What we have to do now is get her not guilty. It is my only priority. No, it is not. It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Yuan. Help. Please, someone help me. I believe her. I fully believe her. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. The court can't continue on like this, therefore I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right. I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what the witness did and what she did not do. Think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there. Right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? Force Andrews to testify. I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. And when she's making a face like that, yeah, we can't throw her under the bus for Maya's sake. What would Maya say? Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you are really hiding. Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing? Sure, Mr. Engarde would get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However, what is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it was on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop. Mr. Edgeworth? This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop, please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Letting other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please stop. I beg you, if people find out. I'll... If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still and breathing lips, no matter what I have to do. So, you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, but please, help me. Nothing matters anymore. Well, that's interesting, but I think we should end this part here, and in the next part, we'll learn about Adrian Andrews' crime, her crime. So we'll see you then. Ta-ta, for now.